Hey everybody, this is Josh Runquist here for the Heavy Debriefings podcast, and I can't believe it's already episode 14, along with...
The Metal Fairy.
Yes, I can't believe it's 14 episodes already.
I know.
And, we're still going strong despite it all. And
Despite it all.
now, this is going to be a very topsy-turvy, curvy, twisty episode, as we got a lot of different stuff going on here. A lot of highs, a lot of lows.
Yeah.
And originally, I wanted to start off the show kind of going back in the last week where we were talking about our mental health struggles that we've been going through lately.
Yeah.
And that was my original intention.
Yeah.
But roughly an hour before we started recording this, things kind of took a left turn as we saw some news come out today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we always report on celebrity deaths, and we didn't think we were going to have any this week, but unfortunately today we did find out about a couple of them.
Two relatively big names even to this day, depending
Absolutely.
on your age range, obviously.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
two that I remember dearly.
Yeah, so first up, Suzanne Summers. Obviously, a lot of people know her from Three's Company. Step by Step is probably our favorite from her.
And the Thigh Master.
And the Thigh Master, but she's obviously did so much throughout her time in acting, and she was only 76. I know she had dealt with breast cancer in recent years, and I think that came back unfortunately, and it's so sad to hear, and she would have been 77 tomorrow.
Yeah, she unfortunately died the day before her birthday, which is just so sad. And,
Yeah.
hearing about the breast cancer as well, too, like, this is something that's been going on a lot lately.
Yeah.
Not just getting breast cancer, but the return
Yeah.
of breast cancer, which is so unfortunate to see happening lately,
Absolutely.
especially with bigger names that people know. And, it's not fair to, it's like, oh, just because Suzanne Summers died of this means that you should go check yourself. You should go check yourself anyways, because you never know what's going on. And
Yeah.
I just think it's so important, just go to the doctor if you find any kind of symptoms of any kind, and just do what you can to go on.
Yeah. And then, of course, we also lost Piper Laurie, who I best know from Carrie. She was the mom in Carrie, and then she was also in Dario Argento's Trauma. But she did so many different things, so many different roles throughout her day. She was 91.
Yeah, she, like you said, she did so many different kinds of roles and all different styles of movies and theater and all these things. Like a real world-class actress.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's just so sad to see that gone too. I mean, especially with the horror season going on in one of her most beloved roles.
Exactly. So super sad news, but moving on from that, we do have some gaming news we're going to cover as well.
Yeah, we were originally going to keep this in the gaming section.
Yeah.
But some of this is some of the biggest news that has ever happened in company history.
Yeah.
In the world. So
Yeah.
we'll get into that.
Yeah. So, of course, first up there was the announcement of the PS5 Slim.
Yes. Basically, it's just a couple inches shorter and slimmer.
Yeah, but it looks pretty much the same.
It has a little light, kind of like a racing stripe kind of thing that's going across the cover of it now.
Yeah.
Although, if you bought any of the special edition covers for your PS5, those won't work on the new system.
Yep.
Basically, it's a complete waste if you are looking for the new one.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Just say the thing.
Right?
There's two different versions of this new PS5.
Yes.
Which I don't even know if they are calling it PS5 Slim, but it's like the redesigns of the PS5, but it's normally known as the PS5 Slim. Because all the additional versions of the PlayStation over the years, that's always been their nicknames.
Yeah.
The version with a disc drive will cost $500.
Yes.
The version without a disc drive is being bumped up to $450. Originally $400.
Yes.
But now $450. It has a couple hundred extra gigabytes.
Right.
It has a full terabyte now instead of the 867 gigabytes I think was in the original one. So less than 200 gigabytes. I mean, that's worthy of the $50 upgrade, right?
Sure.
But the bigger problem is it comes with the ability to be able to add an external disk drive, which will cost $80. So you're paying more if you want to add a disk drive than if you already have one that's installed.
Anybody who purchases that disc drive is an idiot.
Yes.
You should have just bought the one with the disc to begin with.
And it also comes with a stand that only holds the PS5 horizontally.
Yes.
The original one, which is what I have, it allows you to do it vertically and horizontally.
Yes.
But if you want a stand that can hold it vertically, it costs you an extra $30. So if you're keeping track, this will cost you $560 if you want a digital PS5 with an optical drive and a vertical stand.
Yes. Just go buy one now before it changes.
Yes, I could not recommend that more. Buy them now. They're in stores. They're available now. It's not during the pandemic times where, you had to strike the lottery like we did.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, it's a little less space on it right now, but hard drives go on sale all the time.
Yes, and you can get like the mechanical hard drives for your PS4 games and anything else.
Yes.
And if you're into the solid state drives and you know how to put them together, they're getting cheaper and cheaper every year.
Yeah.
So there's like no excuse to do any of what PlayStation's trying to do right now.
No.
Just get the full real version.
Exactly. So next up, Xbox acquired Activision, Blizzard, and King.
Yes, and there's a fourth company I keep forgetting the name of.
Yes.
But the reason that we mentioned this in the real news section and not just in the gaming, this is the largest acquisition ever made.
Yeah.
Not just in gaming, not just in entertainment, ever.
Yes.
At $69 billion.
Can't even fathom that amount of money.
I can't fathom what I would do with that amount of money. I can't fathom seeing that much money in front of me. I can't imagine $69 billion.
Yeah.
There's countries that aren't even worth $69 billion.
In the beginning of DuckTales, when he dives into the coins, that's not even that much money.
No, it's not. And that's gold.
That's gold.
It's just amazing to me. And it's taken like almost 2 years for this to happen, but it's finally official now. They're working out the small details. And even by the holiday season, they might even start putting up the Activision and Blizzard stuff up on Game Pass.
Yeah.
King is more known for the mobile stuff. Like, if you remember how annoying Candy Crush is, you have King to thank for that.
Ooh.
And again, the fourth company, which I completely forget what it is. But Activision and Blizzard are the two big ones.
Yeah.
Blizzard's known for like the World of Warcraft stuff and Diablo. Lots of other stuff, but Activision, of course, their biggest rooster in the game is Call of Duty, but they have so many other things now, like Spyro the Dragon and Crash Bandicoot, which used to be just PlayStation exclusive, and now they're Xbox exclusive, which is just
so strange.
So strange to think about. But there's so many legendary games in the past, like the Tony Hawk series, your beloved True Crime was Activision.
If that is available to play again, I will do a dance of happiness.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that they will re-add that.
Yeah, or if they come out with a new one. Oh,
I mean, Xbox having like their own Grand Theft Auto style game.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, people would eat that up if they do it right. Although we're still waiting for your Perfect Dark game to come out.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
There's so many things to think about here. But what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I don't know. Growing up, I was always a PlayStation girl. It wasn't until this past couple years when we've had both systems that I've ever like ventured into the Xbox world at all. So it's hard. It's a hard pill for me to swallow for anything being like exclusively to any brand, because it just eliminates so many people being able to play it, and it just stinks because a lot of people don't, aren't able to have every system like we have. So I'm excited for the possibilities, but at the same time, it's a bummer because, it limits how many people can play different things and other things too. So
yeah, I mean, the tribalism that really goes on here.
Yeah.
And we see it in so many different things. I mean,
definitely.
It can go from Coke and Pepsi, Apple versus Android, locally here, Packers versus Vikings.
Yes.
AEW versus WWE to bring things back home.
Yeah.
And of course, one that's been going on for so long is PlayStation versus Xbox. And Nintendo is in their own field.
Yeah.
That no one really considers them to be a competitor at all because they do their own thing. And they are much smaller in comparison.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, thankfully we were able to get the Xbox Series S, which of course isn't the prime edition of it, but that's
That's fine.
That's why I have the PlayStation 5.
Exactly.
And I was so thankful to get that so early, and I've been able to enjoy it for so long. And no issues whatsoever, except when we played Resident Evil Village,
Yes.
and it almost destroyed the PS5 because of the bad disc.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's been running smoothly. Xbox Series S has been working for everything that I needed to. Again, the only exception is Starfield, but I still think that's a Bethesda thing where it kept crashing all the time. But
Yeah.
it also could be the Series S, I don't know. But
Yeah.
I'm thankful that we have both, and that does eliminate the tribalism for us because we
Yeah.
have both, so we can enjoy it on both.
Exactly.
But for those not fortunate enough to get that, and all you have to do is just look at social media
Oh, yeah.
to see what's going on here.
Absolutely.
But yeah, to get things back to originally, I hate the consolidation. I hate the acquisitions that keep happening all the time. I just wish everything was available to everything.
Yeah.
But I also understand that companies need a reason for you to go with their systems.
Yeah.
So they gotta have that. I mean, like, if you're just playing Xbox, you're never gonna play God of War.
Yeah.
If you're playing PlayStation, you're never gonna play. Now, like, you can't play Starfield. You know, there's just so many different things that go back and forth with that. But
Exactly.
that's just the way of the world, I suppose.
Yes. Unfortunately.
So, a tale as old as time, going from conglomerations and acquisitions to now my favorite part of the show, where we get the Metal Fairy's real reactions to 3 random songs of my choosing.
Yes.
Now that we've done this for this many episodes, how are you feeling about this segment?
I mean, it's fun. Yeah. I don't mind putting my true feelings out there, even though I know they probably differ with a lot of people out there. But yeah, it's fun.
Well, you know, that's just the thing with me is, like, no matter who my quote-unquote friends have been over the years,
Yeah.
local, band, hometown, other people, I've never had any friend, including you, that has agreed with my musical tastes.
Yeah.
Like, I will always get crapped on for enjoying a particular style or a particular band or something like that.
Sure.
So it always fascinates me to see what people enjoy and what they don't enjoy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I know what you enjoy. Some things I still learn 10 years later.
Yes.
And let's see if you enjoy any of the following 3 songs. Alright, and first up, I wanted to go with something that I've been learning more and more over the last several years that you've been enjoying. That, again, that late 90s to early to mid 2000s pop rock, post-hardcore, emo sound. Bands like Story of the Year, for
Yes,
example.
yes.
And bands in those veins.
Yeah.
And one that's been constantly popping up on my listening is a band that I listened to a lot growing up. Then I fell out of, but,
Yeah.
going back to their biggest album, I've been enjoying it again. It is the band Thrice, with the song, and off the album, The Artist in the Ambulance.
Yeah.
What do you think of this particular song?
So, Thrice is a band that I completely missed back in the day. If I did hear them, I don't remember hearing them back in the day. I was not aware of their existence until you have brought them into my existence lately. And this song in particular has really caught my little earworm dancing, and to the point that I've added it to a few Spotify playlists, and I jam out to this quite often now.
Really?
Yeah.
You never even told me that.
Well, I don't believe everything, you know?
Literally. But, yeah, I'm surprised to see that, but
Yeah.
it's cool to see that as well,
So
too.
far, it's only gone as deep as this song, but I need to venture out more with them.
Yeah, I would definitely say check out more of this album.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite stuff that they did 4 EPs, kind of like what Mastodon did with 4 albums, where they did the different elements, fire, water, earth, and
okay.
air,
Yeah.
where each EP has their own different feel to it, where
Yeah.
fire is more on the metal side, air is more atmospheric, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I thoroughly enjoy what they did up to a point, and then I kind of just lost track of them over time, but I always go back to this album, and it's great stuff.
Yeah.
Next up is one of my personal favorite bands, and I don't care who knows it, because a lot of people don't consider them metal enough, or they consider them sellouts, or...
Can you hear my eyes rolling?
Yes. Just one of those metalcore bands that sucks.
Yeah.
And I could not disagree more. It is the band Killswitch Engage. And this is off what a lot of people consider consider to be their worst album, but I actually consider it to be one of their best albums. The Killswitch Engage 2, or really the real self-titled album, with the song Take Me Away, featuring the legendary Howard Jones of Light the Torch, which you know him potentially most for because you do love him in Light Torch. But of course, his 3 albums with Killswitch Engage are just simply phenomenal, along with all the Killswitch albums. What do you think of this particular song?
Yeah, so I guess first I'll get into Killswitch Engage, which I think we talked about some on previous episodes, but they're a band that I never got into because I just heard the metalcore name and it's just never been my cup of tea, so I've just kind of steered away from it. But you've played them a lot throughout our time together, and I kind of realized that maybe I shouldn't be so harsh to judge metalcore, and let me clarify, not because it's not metal enough. I think that's the stupidest thing in the world, but just because it never hit me in the right way. But I have definitely, in the past few years, I would say, since their last album I absolutely loved. Atonement, yeah. I love that album, and that kind of was my doorway into like starting to get into them more. I still have a long ways to go to kind of get to know them a little bit more, but like anything I hear from them, I absolutely love. Howard, he has such a voice. It's so powerful and like emotional but yet buttery smooth and just he has a dreamy voice. But yeah, I love his voice on this song. I love this song. I love everything you played for me from this album, and yeah.
Couple things to note to go with that. Speaking of it, Jesse Leach, the original and current singer of Killswitch Engage.
Yes.
I highly recommend you follow him on Threads, as he writes some of the most motivational stuff that you could ever hear.
I could use that.
We both could use that.
Yeah.
And I've been following him the last couple days, and he's been putting out a lot of emotional, motivational quotes that have really been helping me out lately.
Yeah.
But also I picked this one because right before we started recording, I saw that Killswitch Engage is actually opening for Iron Maiden over in Australia and New Zealand for a few shows.
Okay.
So I can see a lot of diehard metal fans being very upset about this. But for me, it's like, hey, it's like Ghost opening for Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to see Killswitch in a huge stadium.
Yeah.
And I think they more than deserve that.
Yeah, well, I will preface, or not preface this, but like include this segment with saying that, you know, when we saw Ghost and Iron Maiden was fine. Don't get me wrong, it's like one of those bucket list things, I guess, if you want to say, but like Ghost by far was the winner of that evening. They put on so much better of a show. They were just on point, and I have no doubts that Killswitch would do the exact same. So all of you diehard Iron Maiden, nobody else is as good as Iron Maiden or the big four or whatever you want to go with this, suck it.
Ooh, oh, that burns with such a hot, spicy take.
I know,
there.
right?
Love that. And finally, for this musical roulette, I just feel like, you know, anyone who listens to metal on this show have a reason to hate me this week. I put Thrice on, I put Killswitch Engage, so why don't I go ahead and put on some Electric Callboy as well. And a particular favorite song from them, featuring the band Conquer Divide.
Yes.
The whole band, not just the singer, the whole band Conquer Divide, with the song that I have to change for YouTube called F-Boy.
Yes.
First of all, what do you think of Electric Callboy?
I mean, I never knew of them myself, like, until you played them for me, but they're a fun band. This is a fun album. It's amusing, but it's, you know, they're talented musicians too, and like, it just makes you have a fun time. And there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like fun music gets such a bad rap. There's nothing wrong with that, and don't let that fool you that they're not talented musicians. Like, you can be talented, you can have, you know, good writing skills, and you can still have fun with things and be funny. Like, live a little.
Like I said in my top 10 albums of 2022 revised list, when I put these on here, there's only 3 words to describe them. Big, dumb, fun. And I need nothing more than that. So how about this particular song?
Oh, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. I mean, it's totally going off of so many like trendy like terms and things. You know what I mean? Like it's like a TikTok song, but for the metal community.
It really is. I mean, it's so danceable.
It is.
It's fun.
It is.
And I just love the fact that they can get into like pure death metal, deathcore breakdowns in some songs, but they can also be the catchiest pop rock band that you've ever heard at the same time.
And just super tongue-in-cheek and stuff. You know, it's just fun. It's fun.
It would have been fun to see them, but it was also at the Fillmore, which I don't entirely feel comfortable going to a show that big yet.
Yeah, we haven't been to that venue yet, but I know it's pretty big, and I think it can get pretty packed.
It was also sold out as well.
Oh yeah,
so,
there's that as well.
So that was all the more reason, you know, it's like I'm still a little nervous about something like that.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's the musical roulette for this week. Really didn't go with anything you hated this time.
No, but I think the audience hate might be enough.
Yeah.
So up next, we got a couple different Halloween segments this week, because as we get closer, we got to bump it up a little bit. But up first, we have our top 10 albums for Halloween. Well, we each have our own. So we're going to do a little back and forth and kind of show some music that we think is good for getting you into the Halloween spirit.
So how did you go about this list?
Yeah, so it was a little bit harder than I anticipated, because when I really sat down and started thinking about it, you just cracked open a cold one, just so you know.
Cracked open a cold one with the boys.
Yes. I realized how much, like, for Halloween, I base a lot more around songs specifically than albums, but once I started digging more, I was able to come up with 10. For me, it's a little bit of a mix. Like, I think a lot of people, when they hear this, they would probably go like straight for like super kind of aggressive, like
The Monster Mash.
Yes. But like things that are very like Cannibal Corpse, something that's very graphic and stuff like that. And I absolutely understand if that's your thing and you go that way. But for me, it's more about putting me in the right spirit, the right mood. So even if it may not be as much talk about like gruesome stuff, like if it puts me in that mindset. And I'll get a little bit more into like what that mindset is as we go. But yeah, that's what I did for mine. How about you?
I did it a little bit different because it's really hard for me to kind of like get into any particular holiday.
Yeah.
That's just always been my kind of mindset. I can look forward to stuff.
Yeah.
But like I never really like trend hop onto any season of any kind.
I wouldn't call it trend hopping, but okay.
No, I meant like, you know, it's that time of the year. I'm so excited for all of this, you know, just like, and then you forget about it right after. But well, for some people, not you necessarily.
Halloween is year round, buddy.
Yeah. Anyways,
yes.
Like it's hard for me to get into any holiday like that. Usually because I have such bad memories attached to every single holiday.
Yeah.
Because family has always been around and bad stuff always happens when my family's around.
I understand.
So I can look forward to a season, but you know, like,
Yeah.
But I went about this like if we were to have a party.
Yeah.
And it had more than just you and me showing up.
Which would never happen.
Which would never happen because we have no friends.
Exactly.
You think we're joking.
We're not.
But no, if just say it was.
Yes.
Like, say this took off. The Heavy Debriefings podcast and the YouTube channel, like, sprung up, and we got to have, like, a Halloween party of sorts.
Sure, a shindig.
Yeah, a shindig. A Halloween box social.
Yes.
What are 10 albums that I would put on for people is how I looked at it.
Sure.
Because when we do the last Halloween episode, which will be coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I took a very different approach when thinking about that because I'm thinking about like the most scary, terrifying music of the year. Whereas this just fits the atmosphere of Halloween and what I think of when it comes to this time of season, Halloween, and, you know, not just trying to scare people out the door with the music.
I understand.
So who wants to go first?
You know what? I'll start first with this one, and then you can start first with the next one.
All right.
So my number 10 is by the band Twin Temple, and it is Twin Temple bringing you their signature sound, Satanic Doo-Wop.
Interesting choice.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that your number 10?
That's not my number 10.
Okay.
You'll be seeing it later.
Okay. Well, I'll give you my take right now, and you can give me your take later. So if you're not familiar with them, and if the title didn't give it away, they are Satanic Doo-Wop. They are straight out of the 50s. They have landed that doo-wop sound perfectly. I don't know her name, but she has like this perfect, like sultry, but like still 50s voice, like just so clear and perfect for it.
And her husband is just so rockabilly as well, too.
He is. And all of their lyrics are completely just satanic. It's about, you know, worshiping Satan and, you know, so many different crazy topics. But like, so that alone, I mean, kind of qualifies it for the Halloween material, shall we say. But what I really like about them is it does have that 50s sound, and like I love 50s music, but like the 50s like just has such a like nostalgia kind of eerie vibe to it too when you think about it in a Halloween sense. Like, so anything from the 50s really would get me into the spirit of Halloween, because it just brings you back to like a haunted sock hop or something like that. And if we were doing songs instead of albums, my list would be way more heavily 50s influenced. I will point that out, but because we're doing albums, this is pretty much it for the 50s, but I just wanted to call that out.
And I do just want to say that back on Friday, they just released their sophomore album.
They did, which we'll be talking about later.
God is Dead.
Yes. That is the name of it. What's your number 10?
My number 10 is a very basic choice for a lot of people. Okay. And that's kind of how I did this. I started off with the most basic, and going up to number 1, I went with like the most strange kind of stuff. Okay. Well, not strange to you. I think you know all 10 bands.
Okay.
But my number 10 is Typo Negative.
Okay.
With the album October Rust.
Yes.
Which, again, October Rust.
Yes.
This album featuring so many great spooky songs. And
yes.
The haunting keyboards. I mean, you just have to listen to a song like My Girlfriend's Girlfriend. It just sounds so spooky. But it's also about polyamory, which is something we'll never experience. But you can live vicariously through this song. But there's so many great haunting moments on this album, and it's pretty much every goth number 1 pick for Halloween and fall and everything. And of course, Peter Steele having that bass low voice that you could do the Jenna Jameson from Private Parts thing, where you put the stereo speaker down, putting the bass all the way up, and some stuff happens.
Anyways.
But yeah, it's just that kind of album. It's, Bloody Kisses might be like considered their most popular album, but to real Type O fans, this is probably the biggest album the band has done, outside of like, Black Number 1, Miss Scarol, which is just a delicious pun. But yeah, it's just a great album for the season.
Yeah, they didn't make my list, but I did debate them. For a while, but I'm glad it was on one of our lists at least.
Yes.
My number 9 is by the band Elm Street with Barbed Wire Metal.
Ooh.
So obviously, if you're not familiar with them, and if you're not picking up just by the name, Elm Street is based off of Nightmare on Elm Street. Outside of that, they're very much kind of that kind of new wave of like heavy metal that's been out in the past 10-15 years or so.
I always call it revival metal.
Revival metal, yeah, if you want to call it that. Which they have that like total 80s sound, and that, spoiler alert, that will be heavy on my list, because having that 80s sound just takes me right back to like any 80s slasher.
I feel like we might have another album or two that might be similar on here.
We might. But like, it just brings me back to being a kid and watching horror movies in the 80s, late at night, and all the teen slashers. And then obviously with Elm Street, they do have some song lyrics that are of the poorest persuasion, obviously, Elm Street Children and stuff. So yeah, it's a perfect fit.
They are a great band, and at the end of the month, they have a brand new album coming out as well.
They do.
Which I do have the promo for, but I have not had the chance to hear it yet.
Yeah.
I want you to be around when we hear it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I know how much you love Elm Street. And
what's your number 9?
My number 9 is another basic choice of a band, but I don't think a lot of mainstream fans of the band would pick this album.
Okay.
It is Ghost.
Okay.
With their debut album, Opus Eponymous.
Yeah.
My introduction into the band, like a lot of people who first discovered the band in 2009, 2010, this is how I thought the band was always going to sound. Like, very spooky, kind of that classic metal sound. They have that Merciful Fate meets Blue Oyster Cult sound on this album.
Yeah.
And if you've listened to any other Ghost album, you do not get that vibe on that at all. Like, they completely changed their sound.
Yeah.
Infestation is more progressive. Meliora is like their big mainstream album. Mm-hmm. It's like they go through different eras all the time. I mean, even their new album takes away the 70s aspects and focuses a lot more on the 80s as well. It's a real 80s album.
Yeah.
Even the Kiss type song, Searchlights, it sounds like a 80s Kiss. But this particular album is always going to be my favorite because it has that Merciful Fate meets Blue Oyster Cult sound. Seeing the band at Station 4, the next day I found out my house got foreclosed on. But that show was fantastic. It was Ghost, Blood Ceremony, and Ancient Wisdom. They did this album in its entirety, plus the Beatles song Here Comes the Sun, which when it's done by Ghost, it's not talking about that star above us. It's talking about the son of Satan, of course.
Yes.
But I love this album to death, and I wish it got more recognition from the more mainstream Ghost fans, but I understand why they might not go back to it, because they weren't fans at that time, which does happen.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy Ghost. They didn't make my list. They're another one I did contemplate, though. Of course, this is another band that a lot of metalheads kind of shy away from because it's quote-unquote Scooby-Doo metal. Well, row, sign me up. I enjoy it.
And again, they put on the better show than Maiden.
They absolutely did. So number 8, I have the band Wasp with the Headless Children. I would say there's probably songs from every Wasp album that could definitely fit for a Halloween theme, but I felt like this album in particular is more cohesive with it. There's just kind of a little horror elements throughout it. Obviously, the Headless Children is pretty Halloween themed, but again, it has that classic kind of 80s sound, but it also has the shock rock of Blackie Lawless, and it's just so fitting.
Headless Cross, you said?
Headless Children.
Oh, Headless Children. Yes. Very horror.
Oh, yeah.
And just like last week, you were talking about how I forgot the name of the movie, but where they played demons.
Oh, yes.
I think that's very
Dungeon Master.
Yeah, that's very appropriate for Wasp, because
for sure.
They were always if things changed a little bit, they could have been a black metal band.
Yeah.
Totally. Early day Venom, all that kind of stuff. They easily could have done something like that had they gone in a different direction.
Yeah.
And very, very appropriate.
Yeah. What's your number 8?
My number 8 is a newer band, although they've been around for a while, but they had to change their name. It is the band Unto Others and the album Strength. The reason I picked this one is because it feels like the perfect modern goth metal album.
Yeah.
And heavy emphasis on the goth side.
Yeah.
as well. It sounds like the early day Cult and The Cure, but it also mixes in just the right amount of typo negative. A little bit of Manowar as well, too, with some eagle screams in one particular song, Destiny. The low voice, like the Peter Steele style. Not as many people as I wish I know about Unto Others, but I just feel like they really mix in the goth rock and heavy metal sides perfectly, and I can't wait to see what they do next.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with them. I remember you playing them for me, and I remember enjoying them, but I don't think I've really revisited them much since, so that's something I'll have to fix.
Yes, it is.
Number 7, I have Enforcer with the album From Beyond.
Ooh.
So again, straight up the revival heavy metal 80s sound.
Banana hammocks
and all. This album in particular, though, I feel is a little bit darker than some of the other material, and it just totally fit that 80s teen horror vibe perfectly.
Yeah, and they're that great combination of power metal, thrash metal, heavy metal, hard rock, all of it combined, and they do it so perfectly well. And their newest album is just phenomenal.
Absolutely. What's your next one, 7?
My next one is probably my favorite band in the revival sound, and their latest album, Outsider, is a contender for album of the year for me. I don't know where it lands, but it's somewhere near there. But I have to start with where it all began. The original album, with every song basically being a horror story.
Yes.
It is, of course, Night Demon with Curse of the Damned.
Yes.
Yeah, again, every single song is a different horror story going on. And it just feels like it musically as well, too. They got that 80s sound going on, but modernized just enough.
Yep.
This is probably their fastest, heaviest album that they've done, and it works so perfectly well, whether we see them at the now burned down Hexagon, or we go and see them at the, 30-person capacity Palmer's Bar.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Whatever the case is, we've heard songs off this album both times when we saw them back then, and they always sound incredible live.
Absolutely.
No matter the circumstances that they had to ordeal when playing in Minnesota.
Yeah,
but I love this. Yes, I love this album, and it just feels like a perfect Halloween horror album.
So what a coinky dink! This is my number 6. So, yes.
Before we continue on,
Yes.
you were gone this weekend.
Yes.
And we had no collaboration on what the albums were going to be.
We did not at all.
We're learning this now.
We are learning this now. But yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered it. But again, like just straight up that 80s heavy metal sound, just perfect for movies of that time and puts me totally in the Halloween spirit. What's your number 6?
My number 6 is a choice that not a lot of people might not make because they might not know who they are, but they're currently opening for Beast in Black right now.
Okay.
It is an instrumental horror band known as Dance with the Dead. And I put their latest album, Driven to Madness. Is it mainly because John Carpenter does spoken word on the introduction track? Yes, but that is to get people more interested in this. It is that great combination of like 80s synthwave and heavy metal combined.
Yeah.
It's all instrumental, but when you listen to the music, you can kind of hear like a horror soundtrack going on, and you can like picture everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I really love this. Again, like if it was a party going on, I feel like this would just be a great album to have on in the background and really fit the mood. Yeah, just like they love horror. They write about horror in their music. All of their album covers are just like that perfect 80s horror look. Like you could see that a part of any movie poster. It's just fantastic stuff.
Yeah, totally enjoyable album. I'm not as into the instrumental stuff as you are, so that's why I wouldn't include this in my top 10, but totally get it. This is a fun album. My number 5 is Angel Witch, self-titled.
Oh, you're an angel witch.
Something like that.
Hey, I'm trying to do it so we don't get banned on YouTube.
Sure, that's why. But no, so they're part of the kind of original wave of British heavy metal, but they have that classic sound, but they totally have like the horror elements throughout. A lot of their songs are about horror material, and I would say they're one of the most underrated of kind of that original wave, even though there are some people who've definitely been influenced by them. I would say like they're such that classic sound.
Yeah, and as sad as it is, I do think this is their best album. And they've done some stuff in the past recent years, which they have like one or two great songs, but the rest of it just doesn't really jive with me.
Yeah, their last album, like, I think it still made my top 30, but, like, there were songs that were better than the others. I would say that.
Yeah. But I love Angel Witch, and I am glad that they're still going, and, you know, despite it all, like, had Metallica cover an Angel Witch song, everyone would be singing their praises.
Yeah, there's been a lot of covers of their songs, though.
Yeah, but, you know, it's just like, what Metallica did for a lot of the new wave of British heavy metal bands, you know, it's just like, had they done that, maybe they would have been bigger, but, you know, it's also kind of nice having a band like that in your back pocket as well, too. You know, it's like you can hold them a little closer to you because they are a little more underground.
Yeah, that's true. What's your number 5?
My number 5, getting into a band that I hope made your list. It is Bloody Hammers with Songs of Unspeakable Terror. Every Bloody Hammers album fits this list, but I went with this one because it's the shortest, it has some of the more faster songs a part of it, and of course some great slap you over the face lyrical content of horror movies like I Spit on Your Grave. This album is just a fun album. I'm looking at the vinyl that we have for it, hanging up right now. For anyone interested in our vinyl collection, we basically just have 4 albums and they're hanging up on the wall. We don't have a vinyl player, nor do we plan on listening to vinyl. I love the album artwork, which is why I have the album covers, or the albums that I do. Not because I care about the sound of vinyl. I mean, anything sounds good as long as it's not produced like crap. But with this particular Bloody Hammers album, I just love everything about it. It's fast, it's punky, it's catchy, and of course all the horror themes that go along with it.
And I will get into my thoughts on this one later.
Ooh.
My number 4 is Barack Ingrid with This Is No Fairy Tale.
The crow sticking out the windows.
Exactly. So, again, they're another band where you could have picked pretty much any album by them because they're such that amazing mix of horror and symphonic elements and black metal, and they're just perfect. They're perfect. But this album to me just seems a little bit darker than some of the other ones. Maybe it's just my personal preference, but like, yeah, it's perfect for Halloween.
I'm kind of surprised you didn't go with Frankensteina.
Yeah, well, again, I feel like this one's a little bit darker overall. And Frankenstein, like, yes, it's horror, but it's a more lighthearted horror in my mind.
It kind of is. Yeah.
So this one just seems a little bit deeper, darker.
Well, go a little more into it. Like, what is this album about? All right, fine, you don't want to do it. It's a concept album about the Grimm's fairy tales and like doing the real, like dark evil versions of them, not the Disney versions of them.
It's Grimm's fairy, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
just
not
like
Disney.
it's not the Disney versions where it's like they cleaned and censored so many things up. Like, you listen to this one, it's pretty darn close to the original source material, except sometimes a little bit even more darker and more evil sounding than what you would imagine from the books.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's giving me the biggest glare as I go into the next album here.
I am not.
We're keeping this in. I don't care.
I don't like being put on the spot.
What are you doing on a podcast?
You bragged me into this, buddy.
Anyways, at number 4, basically what I'm guessing is going to be my untimely death when the metal fairy becomes a serial killer. This is a band about serial killers, the band Macabre.
Yes.
And with their latest album, Carnival of Killers. If you're not familiar with Macabre, they basically write every album, EP, or songs about different kinds of serial killers. Some of them they did on Fish. Some of them they've done Jeffrey Dahmer. John Wayne Gacy. They've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Carnival of Killers, kind of like what the name suggests, it's a variety of all different kinds of serial killers on this one. It's not specifically about one. There's so many different ones from so many different styles from the 50s to present day. And there's some very, very messed up lyrics to go with some of them. Like, that old children's songs, the head bones connect to the neck bone. They do that as someone's like slicing all these parts apart with a butcher knife. Mm-hmm. They also have one with like Wheels on the Bus, which is a Wheel on the Bug, about the serial killer bug and killing children. It fits so perfectly. And if you're gonna be doing a messed up serial killer album, Macabre is probably the best band that does it.
Yeah, I know you've played them for me. I haven't listened to them myself much, so I can't speak too much to them, but I've enjoyed what you played for me.
Right on.
My number 3 is a band that I have talked about many, many a times, and I will never stop singing their praises. Blackbriar, with the album The Cause of Shipwreck. Any of their music would be perfect, though. They're so haunting and ethereal, and it just gives you that kind of creepy vibe, even though it's like beautiful at the same time, and it's perfect for Halloween.
Yeah, I love this album. I do think the new album is their best work. Mm-hmm. But this is the album that got me into the band. This is the album I think that you got into the band, right?
No, I got into them with all their EPs before.
Oh, with all the EPs. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is the album where I gravitated towards it, and I gave it a full shot, and I loved what they did here. And yeah, it's got that ethereal fairy feeling, very gothic, very metal kind of stuff. And they've only improved in time.
Absolutely. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is another band who just released an album back on Friday, but I went with their previous album. It is the band The Lion's Daughter with Skin Show. And this is probably the best modern horror metal band. They take all different aspects of metal, thrash metal, black metal, death metal, sludge metal, but they also add like the horror synthesizers in all the right spots, and they just create some of the most creepy atmospheric music that goes on, and I love everything about this band. One particular song, one of their biggest songs, Neon Teeth, it feels like a mix of Halloween and The Exorcist themes combined together with a very metal sound, and it just works out perfectly. Every album that they've been doing lately seems to be either a concept album or a thinly veiled themed wrapped around each other. I can't recommend this band enough if you're looking for real Halloween-esque horror-filled metal.
I'm sure you've played this band for me, but I can't remember them. I've been seeing this name all over the place, though, so you'll have to show me them again.
I remember when this came out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember the exact quote saying, "I don't know if I love this or hate this."
Yeah, that is a reaction I would have. My number 2 is Bloody Hammers. With the same album you chose, Songs of Unspeakable Terror. Again, like you said, any of their albums would be great for Halloween. I just felt like this was the most like straight ahead Halloween, whereas some of the other ones are almost kind of like gothic love, and you can go different paths away from it, but like this one is just straight up, let's have a Halloween night. And Anders is amazing. Everything he does is amazing, and it's gold. So.
And you still need to check out the first few Bloody Hammers albums.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard pieces of it, but I haven't sat down with it like in completion.
Yeah, and you need to change that at some point. Number 2 on my end is Twin Temple.
Oh!
With Twin Temple brings you their signature sound.
Yes.
Satanic doo-wop.
Yes.
Yes, I feel like this would be a great album to put on during a party. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like people could get into the mood, they dance to it.
Yeah.
If they don't really pay attention to the lyrics, especially if they're not of the satanic mindset.
Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, I could show my parents this or something. You know, it's like, hey, I like doo-wop too. And then
Exactly.
it's like, ooh, tug your collar on that one. But I love both albums, and even though the newest one just came out back on Friday, and I didn't even know he was coming out.
Yeah.
A lot of things happened label-wise, and I didn't know if the album was going to come out, but thankfully it did. But this one obviously lasts longer in my heart because I've heard it longer.
Yeah.
But it's such a shock to know that someone has put out a satanic doo-wop album, and they keep getting more and more successful.
It's true.
Like, you would think this is such a novelty or a gimmick that could never catch on.
Yeah.
But people love it.
Yeah.
And we love it.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic stuff. And
It is.
it shows that, again, just because you're in a committed relationship does not mean that the band is going to suffer.
No.
And my last two, most of my choices on here are great examples of that, like Bloody Hammers.
Mm-hmm.
Married couple, and their music has never waned because of it. So I think the Yoko Ono thing needs to die off already.
Oh, you almost swore.
I almost did. Yeah, I think it just needs to stop.
Yes. And finally, my number 1 is Lizzie Borden with Love You to Pieces. Again, Lizzie Borden is a band where pretty much all their albums would have some songs that would be perfect for Halloween. And of course, they have had their music in horror movies as well. But this album in particular, I mean, Love You to Pieces isn't just a love song. It means a little something extra if you catch my drift. But yeah, there's horror throughout it, and it has that 80s sound again, but it's right from the 80s, and Lizzie just has such an amazing voice, and obviously Lizzie Borden, the name itself, is named after the notorious killer. So
40 whacks with a wet noodle, Bart.
exactly. But yeah, I love Lizzie Borden, and this is the perfect album for Halloween, I feel like.
Yes, and I really wish this was the last band that we've seen in the last several years, instead of the
Yeah.
band that played after Lizzie Borden.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
it's a subject for a different time. But I love Lizzie Borden. Mm-hmm. The more you've played them, the more that I've enjoyed them. And I knew of them, of course, before we met, but I really started to appreciate them more because of you.
Yeah.
And kind of in the same vein, although a little quite different, my number 1 is a band you never, ever would have checked out
Okay.
because of their band name.
Okay.
But I'm so thankful that you actually gave them a real shot. And they're actually a band that you enjoy now.
Okay.
And the album is, of course, committed to a bright future. And the band is Dog Fashion Disco.
Yes.
Now, again, did you ever think that you would enjoy a band called Dog Fashion Disco?
Absolutely not. Not a chance.
But this band is so much more than what their band name is.
Yes.
Which really doesn't give you an idea of what it is, except that it might be a little quirky.
Yeah.
But they are a horror band. All of their songs are about different kinds of horror in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
They have songs about Scooby-Doo. They have
Yes.
songs about nuclear war. They have pretty much everything going along with
Yes.
it. They have songs about John Wayne Gacy, and one of my favorite songs, Pogo the Clown.
Yes.
Also off this particular album is your favorite Dog Fashion Disco song, Those Sweet Rapist Eyes, Look What You've Done to Me. Yeah. I would have went with Adultery on this one because that is also a horror album, but it's also kind of more of like a crime thriller mystery album.
Yeah.
Where you're going through the eyes of a private investigator, whereas this one is just like straight up horror from start to finish in just different avenues, like, burning down an orphanage, or John Wayne Gacy dressed as a clown killing children. There's a lot of children killing on this
There's
album.
diversity.
There's a lot of diversity, but musically, a lot of people compare them as like a more mainstream sounding Mr. Bungle, which I don't think is really fair.
Yeah.
They have a lot of hard rock moments, they have metal moments, they have a brass section sometimes, they have saxophone sometimes, which I'm still amazed you even listen to them despite the fact that they have a saxophone, but there's always exceptions.
Yes, I make an exception for them.
Yeah, Dog Fashion Disco is just a fantastic band, and I wish more people knew of them.
Yeah, I debated them. I knew they'd be on your list. So I'm like, okay, well, I know they're going to at least be represented if I don't make them onto my list. So yeah, but absolutely. Perfect.
And that's our collective top 20 horror albums, or really in this case, a top 18, because
yes, we had a couple overlaps.
So what about you? Did we make some good choices here? Are there some albums that we left out? Are there some albums that we should have talked about? Is there some albums on here that are pure garbage in your eyes? Please let us know in the comments on YouTube or on social media or wherever you're checking this out. Let us know.
So up next in our second part of our Halloween spectacular, we have our top 10 TV episodes that are based around Halloween. So Halloween TV episodes. So how did you go about this first? Let's start with that.
I basically went with the ones that always stuck out to me most.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm kind of limited on this because growing up, I only watched a few particular different kinds of TV shows. Mm-hmm. Although, like, of course, kids at my age, like, we watched everything, but I don't always remember all the Halloween episodes or Christmas episodes or stuff like that. So it just came to ones that I remember more vividly over the years.
Yeah.
And with all of that said, I might as well start because you started off with number 10 last time.
Okay.
I will start with my number 10, which almost doesn't count as it's a special.
Okay.
But it is the length of a normal TV show.
Okay.
So I think it counts.
Okay.
It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, I debated this, but I didn't know how we were going to go about it, so.
I think it counts because it's a half-hour episode.
Right.
Which all of the shows that I have on my list are that.
Right.
So I think it counts. And I love this episode so much. It's about Linus's faith that the Great Pumpkin will come, and that's all he cares about. He won't go to the local dance party or costume contest going on. He doesn't care about trick-or-treating, even though he does. And he just wants the Great Pumpkin to come alive.
Yeah.
And it's such a heartbreaking episode for Charlie Brown as well, too. One, he doesn't know how to tell Linus that the Great Pumpkin isn't real.
Yeah.
Second, he dresses up like a ghost and gets a rock in his trick-or-treat bag.
Yes.
You know, it's like, I got a sucker, I got a tootsie, I got a rock. Just showing again that Charlie Brown is one of the most tragic animated characters ever.
He is.
And when we get into Christmas stuff, oh, you better believe I'll be getting into this more.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I love all of the holiday Charlie Brown stuff. I love Charlie Brown. I love Peanuts. And I know some people consider it too depressing. For me, it just fits perfectly.
Yeah. So on my end, first getting into a little bit what I do with my list. So a majority of my list, kind of similar to albums, are episodes that are obviously Halloween centered, but that just get me in the Halloween spirit. There are a couple exceptions, and those will be my first couple that kind of, they get me in the Halloween spirit, but for a completely different reason, just because they really they go the opposite direction with it. Like they just kind of take the pee out of it, if you know what I mean. So going with that, we'll start with my number 10, and we're gonna start with Married with Children in the episode Take My Wife Please. So during
one of the oldest vaudeville jokes out there.
So during this episode, Al wishes that he was dead. So
like every other episode.
Pretty much. But he is visited by the Grim Reaper, who is Peg. And they basically have the deal that if by the end of the or by midnight, if one of his family members wishes that he was around, he will live, or he will escape death. Meanwhile, Haig, Bund, and Kelly and Jefferson, they impersonate the village people at a party for a menopausal woman. So it's just a well-rounded episode, and it's so goofy and hilarious, and I love Married with Children, and it's just perfect.
It just makes you feel alive again.
It does, right? Mm-hmm. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is Family Matters.
Okay.
And I chose Steve-ul 2. This time he's not alone.
Yes.
This is the episode where Steve Urkel has an evil mannequin.
Nice.
And he terrorizes the family in his own special way. I love Family Matters growing up as a kid.
Oh yeah, I watched it too.
The Winslow family, it was my Cosby show.
Yeah.
Family Matters is my Cosby show. And I was always sad to see that the grandma, didn't last too long on the show, obviously passing on. But she was just so sassy in those early episodes. And I still think about how, like, Urkel was only supposed to be in one episode. Then he became the star of the show.
He was the show.
It's like Trailer Park Boys, where Bubbles is only supposed to be in one episode, and he basically becomes the real star of the show as well. It's funny how that works out, but yeah, just all the Halloween shenanigans that happens with Steve and his mannequin Stevel. It's just hilarious stuff, and maybe not all of it holds up nowadays, but I still have a joy for it.
Yes. My number 9 is Curb Your Enthusiasm, Trick or Treat.
Huh. Interesting.
And I'm sure you have it on your list too.
Whatever do you mean?
So a lot of the episode really doesn't even have anything to do with Halloween. Like, it starts off with Larry and Cheryl attending a movie premiere, and Larry tradition ends up offending a few people for different reasons. I won't spoil everything because, you gotta watch it. But then later on, I think it's that night or the next, whatever night it is, some kids come by trick-or-treating at his place, but they're not dressed up and they're teenagers. So he refuses to give them candy. They end up toilet papering his house and spraying bald a-hole on his door, spray painting. And it's just hilarious. It's hilarious, and there's so many amazing jokes from this episode. And Curb Your Enthusiasm is amazing. So
a couple things. First of all, it's amazing how much we love Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes.
But never want to watch Seinfeld.
I hate Seinfeld. I hate it.
Yet it's from the same creator.
I know.
It makes no sense.
No sense.
And also, going into wrestling news, back this past week, Tony Khan used what was spray painted on Larry's door to describe Triple H and Shawn Michaels on a picture on Twitter.
Nice.
Which we might be talking about later.
Okay.
But my next one up at number 8 is Home Improvement, who is always known for their Halloween episodes. But I went with the first one, Haunting of Taylor's House, which I think is the funniest one. I love how the party takes place in their basement and all the Halloween shenanigans that happen with that. The Brad love story I'm not really big into, but all the other jokes that go with it is just so perfect. And like another show that might show up soon, I think the first episode was the best Halloween one.
So, you know how we talked about earlier how we were separate when we made these lists?
Yeah.
Well, my number 8 is also Home Improvement with The Haunting of Taylor House. So everything you said, and I just love how, like, they're so into Halloween as a family, and they love, like, pranking each other and stuff, and it's just, I loved seeing that as a kid.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of what Tim Allen has done since Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Outside of Galaxy Quest, mainly political stuff, but I will always hold something near and dear to Home Improvement.
Yes, and of course, the younger me had a huge crush on Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas sweatshirt.
Exactly.
But next up is another sitcom that I loved growing up, and I can no longer tolerate the star of the show.
I know where you're going with this.
It is Roseanne with their very first Halloween episode, Boo. Again, I think it's the best Halloween episode. I know there's arguments that latter Halloween episodes are better, but I always appreciated the first one the most. It just felt the most authentic, and just the first time seeing them get into Halloween, and, of course, Dan getting into Halloween and stuff is just so perfect. I just love this episode, and I love the early day Roseanne so much.
Yeah. I will get into my thoughts on this later.
All right.
My number 7 is Small Wonder with the Lawsonville horror.
Oh, that... I had forgotten all about that show until you brought it up.
If you're not familiar with the show, it's a show about a family who had a robot for a daughter that they made people believe was a real girl.
Like my mother, the car.
Yes. Anyways, her name was Vicky. So in this episode, Vicky gets electrocuted and gains some extra powers that she can't control, such as she can move objects and float in air. The family at first doesn't know this, so they think there's some kind of ghost thing going on. So they bring in some ghost experts to try to figure it out, but eventually the dad figures it out that it's actually just Vicky. So then they have to figure their way out of this so that the ghost inspectors don't realize that Vicky is a robot. So they think of clever ways to try to convince them but that's not the case. But it's just, I remember watching this as a kid and just loving it. I love the show, first of all, but just loving this episode. So,
and it's almost no wonder why it didn't last too long, because there's only so many episodes you can do where you're trying to hide that someone is a robot and stuff. But it is a fun show. I remember seeing it on Nick at Night or TV Land. I forgot which one it was on, but
yes,
I remember seeing those episodes, and I do remember that one actually quite vividly.
Yeah.
My number 6.
Yes.
hard to believe we haven't talked about this show yet because we love it so very much, and we used to fall asleep watching this show all the time.
Yes.
It is, of course, BoJack Horseman.
Oh.
And it is, of course, Mr. Peanut Butter's Booze.
Yes.
Which is kind of an anthology episode.
Yeah.
Where it goes from 1993 to 2003 to 2009 to 2017, 2018, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's all the different girlfriends or wives of Mr. Peanut Butter.
Yes.
One of the greatest cartoon characters ever made. And just all the shenanigans that happen at all of BoJack Horseman's Halloween parties.
Yes.
And how you basically learn that Mr. Peanut Butter doesn't really care about the partners that he's with.
Yeah.
Like, he just cares about having fun and having a good time and what he thinks his partners need rather than what they don't.
Yes.
And every single time in all 4 of the stories, they specifically ask him to do one specific thing. And he never does any of those things.
Nope.
And it's a real thinker about how you approach relationships, how even if you think you're in the right, you might be in the wrong.
Yeah.
And of course, there's some other stuff that goes along with it too, and different B and C stories that go along with it. But it's mainly about Mr. Peanut Butter and all of his relationships, and I just love this episode, especially for all the references and the costumes that are worn.
Yeah. So I will say I absolutely love BoJack Horseman. It's one of my favorite TV series ever, and there are a lot of fun things about this episode, but I don't know, it's just not one of my favorite episodes of BoJack Horseman.
Really?
Yeah. So it didn't make my list, but that's okay.
But we will be talking about BoJack more in the future.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely,
sure.
absolutely. So my number 6 is Dawson's Creek.
Another show we haven't talked about on this show yet.
With 4 scary stories. Dawson's Creek actually had a few different really good Halloween episodes. But this one in particular, it was nothing crazy, but like Joey, Jack, and Pacey return to Graham's house after a movie, and they're all feeling like they can't be scared by movies because the movie didn't scare Joey. So they end up telling some scary stories, and Graham eventually enters the conversation, tells the scariest one of all, and it's just, I love it. I mean, I know this list is all over the place, first I will admit that, and it probably is also completely saying when I grew up and stuff, but I just remember loving this episode because it had a lot of like the same characteristics of a lot of the teen horror movies, which makes sense because a lot of those actors and actresses actually were in a lot of teen movies at that time too. But yeah, it's perfect.
First of all, every time I think of Dawson's Creek, I also think of the Family Guy references.
Yes.
But I also think of Mad TV, where they got Lisa Loeb to sing Dawson's Creek parody called Pretty White Kids with Problems.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Which is what I always think of Dawson's Creek. Pretty White Kids with Problems. Sure. So I have nothing else to add to this conversation.
That is fine. I did expected no less. I expected maybe we'd act out the Family Guy thing, but it's okay.
But come on, I was wearing a blazer.
I want to wait. That's stupid.
Okay.
You're number 5.
My number 5 is very similar to Family Guy.
Oh, okay.
It is American Dad with the best little haunted house in Langley Falls.
Okay.
And again, this kind of has a theme kind of going on with my horror albums, where Stan wants to put on the real scariest haunted house in Langley Falls. When his neighbor across the street is really doing more scary stuff than he is. So Stan decides he's going to do the one thing that would scare anybody. Take all the serial killers from the local prison and put them inside his house to let them run around and chase people. And of course, it does not go as planned in his mind, and it becomes a real horror show in there.
Yes.
It was back when I loved American Dad, and kind of like a context that we'll be talking about in our next segment, everything that goes to TBS eventually dies in my heart.
Yeah.
So I haven't really given American Dad a chance since it's been on there, but back when it was on Fox, I loved it, and this was a particular reason why.
I totally understand. My number 5 is Bob's Burgers with full bars. So they are another TV show that has amazing Halloween episodes all the way around. But this one is my favorite. First of all, the kids always have unique costumes, and this was a great year. Of course, Jean was Queen Latifah during her UNITY days.
UNITY.
Louise was Edward Scissorhands, and Tina was a mummy. She was single, she was working 2 jobs, and just trying to get back out there.
And has 3 kids.
And has 3 kids, yes. And in this episode, they find out that on Kings Island, where the kind of more wealthy people live, they give out full bars on Halloween. So they decide they're going to go trick-or-treating there. Unfortunately, this also is the same night as HE double hockey stick hunt. And it was just basically when older kids kind of pick on all the little kids trick-or-treating. And so that leads to some shenanigans. And then Meanwhile, all the adults are at Teddy's party, and his guinea pig Francis dies, unfortunately, and there's some trouble with that as well, but it's just an amazing episode.
Yeah, a little murder mystery there, and
Yes.
of course one of the best Ian lines. It's Helen Hunt instead
Yes.
of HE double hockey sticks Hunt.
Exactly.
It's Helen Hunt.
Exactly.
And it's funny you bring that up because that was my exact next one.
Nice.
Yes, I could have picked any of the Buzz Burgers Halloween
Yes.
episodes. There's so many good ones.
So many.
When all the candy gets stolen around town and you find out who takes it, and then it goes into Salt and Pepper at the end.
Yeah.
It's none of your business.
When they get locked away because of Millie. Ugh.
There's so many great episodes, but Full Bars is one of the best ones. Again, the costumes, Teddy's murder mystery that happens, and
Yes.
the resolution of that, just like you realize how stupid everybody is.
Yes.
And I love it for that. And, the HE double hockey sticks haunt, which is just real fun seeing them in a different environment, and it has like a horror feel in there as
It does.
well.
It does.
Obviously family friendly, but
Yeah.
it does have that horror aspect, which I appreciate.
Yes. So my number 4 is The Facts of Life with the Halloween show. And I actually rewatched this yesterday. Just
So
because.
that's what you did on your ventures away from here.
Yeah, one of the things, yeah. But in this episode, so this is after Mrs. Garrett has opened up her, it's not really a full grocery store, but a little food store. And meanwhile, the butchers are on strike, so she can't get meat anywhere. And anyways, this old man comes in to visit one day, and he decides he wants to order some meat, but she doesn't have any. And then all of a sudden the next day, he disappears. And so all the girls, they think that she killed this man to get this meat that has now all of a sudden appeared. But I won't spoil the end, but it's just a classic one. And yeah, it's great. 80s fun.
It always throws me off when I think of the Facts of Life, because I
Yeah.
think of the first season of Different Strokes, and I'm wondering, what's Mrs. Garrett doing here?
Right?
It wasn't Mrs. Garrett. It was just the same actress, but, just seeing her go from Different Strokes to the Facts of Life, what a transition. But I actually do remember that episode quite. I watch the Facts of Life all the time on TV
Yes.
Land. Yes. My number 3 is South Park, and they have done a number of great South Park Halloween episodes.
Yeah.
There's the episode where everyone turns into a zombie from eating some bad Worcestershire sauce. There's, of course, the Goth Kids episode where kids are turning emo, which is one of my personal favorite ones. I love when they feature the Goth Kids. But I went with one that features one of the best characters in South Park, Butters, in a huge part. It is, of course, Hell on Earth 2006. I love this episode because the main story is about how Satan is going to be having his birthday on Halloween, and he wants to have a glorified My Super Sweet 16 party. He wants a Ferrari cake. He wants all these different things that you would see if you ever watched MTV's My Super Sweet 16. And he acts just like a spoiled 16-year-old brat. But the side story is where all the kids in South Park are basically doing Bloody Mary or Candyman, depending on who you are.
Yeah.
But it's neither of those two. It's Biggie Smalls. And Butter says Biggie Smalls into the mirror 5 times.
Yes.
And Biggie Smalls appears with a gun and starts shooting after Butters. And eventually, Biggie Smalls is in hell, of course, and he wanted to go to Satan's birthday party. So Butters has to get him to LA, which is where it's taking place, not in hell, but to LA. And he has to fly him all the way there. And other kids start doing Biggie Smalls into the mirror, and he gets getting transported into other places. There's a great Three Stooges parody that happens in there with different serial killers, if you haven't noticed a theme with me lately. But there's so many great points that if you're a kid of my generation, you love all the references that are going on in this episode.
Yeah, that is a great one. My number 3 is Charmed, All Halliwell's Eve. So during this episode, the 3 sisters have to travel back in time to save a coven. But when they travel back in time, they all lose their powers. So they have to find magic in kind of everyday items back then. So, one of them ends up using a broom to find magic and is able to fly in the broom. Kind of harkening back to, older images of what, witchcraft was back in the day and stuff. But it's just such a fun episode because they're, taken out of the current day and kind of transplanted back in what people used to think witchcraft was back then and stuff. And it's super interesting.
So was this an early day episode?
Yeah, this was, I want to say second season, but yeah, it's when Shan Doherty was still on the show.
Okay, it was well before Kaylee Kuko came and destroyed the episode.
Everything. Yes.
No, may not remember, but is this before or after Ralph Garman showed up as a DJ for a couple episodes?
Oh, that was later.
Okay.
Later. Yeah.
That's all and the WCW episode. That's all I really know about Charmed. Number 2, which you've already talked about earlier, is Curb Your Enthusiasm with Trick or Treat.
Nice.
Yeah, the thing I love about Curb Your Enthusiasm is it's not just one straight story that's going on.
No.
Some seasons have like a main story that's going throughout all the episodes, but there's always little mini stories that are going on in between it, and this is a perfect example of that. From the movies to Trick or Treating to being bald to
Yes.
anti-Semitism to pretty much everything else that you could imagine in a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode.
Yes, exactly.
And just ends on one of my favorite FU moments ever with what Larry does to one of his neighbors in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Which I love so very, very much.
Absolutely.
I love every single episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's never been a dull moment. And I've talked about it before, but I'd love to do a sideshow where we just dissect each and every episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes. Yeah.
But, we're even rewatching it again now. As we're in the midst of doing other stuff, we are rewatching Curb Your Enthusiasm because we just love the show so much.
Yes, and I think we should go through and watch all of our Halloween episodes too, and kind of show each other some of the stuff.
Are they all available to stream? That's the thing. Because I don't know if Family Matters is.
Maybe not. Most of them are, though, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so my number 2 is My So-Called Life with Halloween.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
With Mr. 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yes, Jordan Catalano.
It's morphin' time.
Yes. So in this episode, Angela ends up hearing about a student who died at their school back in the 60s. So her, Ricky, and Rayanne decide that they're going to break into the school on Halloween night and hold a seance to try to kind of see what happened and stuff. And basically the episode kind of takes them back, watching kind of what happened with this story of this person back in the 60s. But this kind of brings me back to the Twin Temple conversation, like kind of the time period of the 50s and 60s and kind of the innocence of like the sock hops and all that stuff. There's something so eerie about it too, and this just brought that all together so well, I felt like. But it was with characters that I absolutely loved, yeah.
I will have to take your word for it, as I've never seen an episode.
I'm gonna show you this entire show sometime. It's only one season, so and it's short, so
well, you would sure think that would happen. Number 1.
Oh, it's going to.
Number 1.
Yes.
It is the show that we currently fall asleep to every time. It's a show that you avoided like the plague for a very, very long time. And you eventually started giving it a shot. And it's become one of your favorite shows of all time.
Yes.
It is King of the Hill.
Yes.
And it is, of course, their only Halloween episode, Halloween.
Yes.
This is an episode where a very conservative Christian, Junie Harper, comes to town.
Yes.
And she wants to abolish everything that has to do with Halloween. From the churches, from the schools, from trick-or-treating, everything, because it's all a part of the devil's plan.
Yes.
And Hank loves Halloween. He loves trick-or-treating, but what he loves most, because he was an actual bully as a teenager,
Yes.
in high school. Never forget that. Hank is a jerk.
Yes.
He's an absolute jerk.
He absolutely is.
Hey, fatty, you are fat. But he likes to play pranks and throw toilet paper and eggs at his friends and other people's houses.
Yes.
And after Junie Harper takes away his haunted school project that he was doing for Tom Landry Middle School, he decides to toilet paper and egg Junie Harper's house.
Yes.
She gets so upset and she tries to chase them off. She runs over her cat, Joshua. Joshua. But she thinks that whoever did these pranks on her made her run over her cat, getting Halloween canceled.
Yep.
And then there's some other stuff that happens as well, too. I don't want to give away the whole episode.
Yeah.
But I love how much they care about Halloween. I love the trick-or-treating aspects of it. I love how the boys dress up in their different things. Like, Dale dresses up as one of the businessmen from a cigarette corporation. Bill tries to be a ghost, rips it, and it turns into a toga outfit. And
Yes.
there's just so many great aspects to it, and I really wish they would have done more Halloween episodes.
Yeah.
The only thing that comes close is probably my favorite episode of King of the Hill, where Bobby joins a witchcraft coven.
Yes.
But that's a topic for a different day.
Yeah.
But I love this episode.
Yeah, I love King of the Hill now, and this episode is definitely enjoyable. It's funny because, like, you wouldn't think that Hank, even though, like, yes, he was a character back in his high school days, you wouldn't think that he'd be so pro-Halloween, because he is a religious man as well, when he wants to be.
When it fits the narrative.
When it fits the narrative. So, it's kind of strange in that respect, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. But my number one is going back to one of your previous ones, and Roseanne with Boo.
Ooh.
There is no show that did Halloween or does Halloween better than Roseanne ever did. Like, in my opinion. I know you're looking at me and I know where you're going with this, but just it is what it is. Okay, this is my opinion. Like, stop looking at me like that, dude.
Fine.
He's looking away now. He can't look in my eyes. Anyways, they have so many good episodes. Like, I love all the episodes where they have their, like, annual lodge party and stuff like that too, but this one is the one that set the bar, because, like, it's them kind of starting out with Roseanne and Dan having this kind of competition back and forth of who can scare each other the most, and then they have this, like, full-on haunted house at night for Halloween, and Roseanne just really gets one over on Dan and in the best way possible. And it's just, I remember watching this as a kid and thinking to myself, like, that's what I want someday. More than anything in this world, I want a household when I grow up that loves the Halloween spirit and enjoys it and has Halloween, like, all over the place and just has fun like this family.
Well, I'm sorry I'm not John Goodman, okay?
Well, nobody can be, but, you know, as long as we share the love of Halloween, that's all good. But
fair enough.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And yes, she has changed a bit in recent years, shall we say. And,
Oh, yeah.
can't really enjoy that anymore, but I still love the original Roseanne, and yeah.
Did not enjoy the Connors at all.
Yeah, I couldn't get into that, but yeah, it is what it is.
But yeah, that's our collective top 20 or 18 or whatever, how many we had in common.
Yeah.
Episodes of Halloween.
Yes.
Now, if you feel like we left some stuff off, first of all, you can let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
But second, if you know me, and you really know me, if you know me for one thing, you will notice that I left off a particular show. I left off, yeah, bold true. I left off a particular TV show, a show that is very near and dear to me, known as The Simpsons, and what they've been doing for soon to be 36 episodes of Halloween pleasure known as Treehouse of Horror.
Yes.
Now, you're probably wondering, why would I leave that off? You're probably wondering that as well, too. Like, how could I have not brought up anything that had to do with Treehouse of Horror?
No, I know.
Oh, do you know? No, why is that?
There's something coming up next week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Metal Fairy and I have been, we sat down with the first half of the Treehouse of Horror series so far. And this week we're going to be doing the second half.
Yes.
But next week we'll be doing our top 10 favorite Halloween segments from the Treehouse of Horror.
Yes.
And we already got our list flowing right now, and there's a lot of good ones still coming up. And of course, all the classic ones will be in there probably between the both of us.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do this one separately, and I'm so glad we're doing this one separately, and we're going back and enjoying all of the Treehouse of Horror episodes.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to talk about my favorite show and one of the best aspects. And what I have 2 out of 3 compendiums now in comic book form for the Treehouse of Horror comics.
Yes.
I can't wait for next year when Volume 3 comes out. But yeah, I love Treehouse of Horror almost more than any other thing in Halloween and scary horror stuff at all. It's the reason I love Anthology, all of that stuff, so make sure to tune into that next week. But if there's any other Halloween TV shows that we've left off outside of The Simpsons, which again is coming next week, make sure to let us know in the comments down below or on social media or anywhere else, because there's plenty of Halloween stuff out there, and hey, maybe we'll find some new stuff to enjoy, or you can just crap on us for our choices. Now we're going to be going into some territory that I've been talking about all week. Well, especially since before you left for your weekend excursion. I know you didn't want to talk about this, but I feel like this is the perfect time to talk about it. And if you want to bail out on this, if you want to be done with the show, fine.
Packing my bag right now.
Yeah, I mean, you very well might. You know, I've wanted to talk about this. You've been kind of apprehensive about it for various reasons I won't get into, but I think we need to talk about, officially, the death of us potentially watching AEW.
Yes.
You might have thought I was going in a different direction there, didn't you?
I mean, there's multiple directions you could have went with that one. But yeah, I mean, it just hasn't been enjoyable in a while. Aside from a couple things. MJF, Don Callis are treasures. Outside of that... And they just signed Kota Ibushi too.
I know.
Which is, oh gosh. But if we're watching it every week, and we only watch one of the 3 shows every week, and even that is a pill to get through, like, is it really worth it?
It's the only reason we still have cable.
Yes.
Because everything else we watch is available on some kind of streaming service.
Yes.
And from what I've heard, sometime even before 2024, if not in 2024, AEW will be on Max.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that would include the TV shows. I'm not sure if that's just pay-per-views, which they're going to be doing 12 a year now, once a month. And if you have to pay $50 times 12 equals not going to happen.
Yes.
So from what I understand, Max is going to be having like a sports section where you got to pay $10 a month for it, but you get like live basketball games and stuff like that. And your mom might even like that as well too. Like
Yeah.
even if the Timberwolves isn't on TV, she might be able to watch the Timberwolves games.
Sure.
But when it comes to wrestling, I don't have a problem if it does go into Max and we start watching the pay-per-views again. But all we do is just crap on AEW when we're watching it.
Exactly.
All we're doing is making fun of it. We don't care about the stories outside of a couple. And even the Don Callis stuff, Don Callis is the only saving grace of it. The rest of it, I don't care. And that includes Kenny Omega.
I know.
Which is not fair.
It's not.
But my love of AEW started happening with CM Punk and Brawlout last year. Everything that happened with CM Punk and Elite fight that happened, and just seeing the fallout of all of that happening made me lose so much love and respect for AEW.
It's true.
Then they brought back CM Punk. He got himself into another fight.
Yup.
He almost beat the crap out of Tony Khan, his boss, and he eventually got fired. But the problem is, in the beginning, the Elite were doing a lot of the writing for the show. Now it's just Tony Khan.
Yeah.
And Tony Khan does not have it in him to be able to write 2 hours of good wrestling writing. I think he could do like a story or two, but he can't do all of it. And he's doing that. He's doing Ring of Honor. There's word that he might be doing other promotions as well too at some point. It's too much. And it's just, it feels more and more like WWE.
Yes.
Just with different players.
Yep.
And all the reasons that I loved AEW to begin with are almost gone.
Yeah, pretty much.
So what do you think? I mean, do you think that we're going to be getting rid of the cable soon?
I think there's a distinct possibility about that.
If we make that decision, it will save us a whole heck of a heap, pardon my French. But yeah, so we might not be talking about wrestling on a weekly basis anymore.
Yeah.
Potentially might not even be a monthly basis anymore.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But if you are a fan of wrestling and check out the show, you know, to be continued, to be determined.
Exactly. So, on the TV front, we haven't watched a whole lot this week, but last Sunday we did check out the new Simpsons and Bob's Burgers.
Both are absolute tearjerker episodes.
They were.
I wasn't expecting that for the second episodes of both seasons.
No, not at all.
The first one with the Simpsons,
Yeah.
It's kind of like a fever dream for Marge because like she constantly sees her kids growing up as from babies to the current ages that they are now, and realizing that kids don't need her as much anymore.
Yeah.
And you just constantly keep seeing these flashbacks of when she was wanted, and then again just like a fever dream of different stuff happening, and it's just so sad watching it through her eyes.
Yeah, and then she like realizes that like, well, Bart may have grown out of things, her younger kids still need them, but then she panics because they're gonna grow up too. It's like,
Even though Maggie's only one.
exactly, and has been forever. But it's sad because, you know, yes, they grow up, but they're still gonna need you in different ways, you know. So hopefully she can just get to that.
Yeah, again, like if you think about it, because the show's on its 35th season,
Yeah.
Maggie should be a year older than me.
Yeah, she should be.
That's just the world that we live in right now.
Exactly. And then Bob's Burgers, of course, focus around one of my favorite characters, Rudy, regular-sized Rudy.
Regular-sized Rudy.
Yes, and kind of his struggle between him and his parents, who are now separated or divorced, completely, and kind of they have their weekly, I think it was, dinner or monthly dinner, and how like he always tries to put on some kind of entertainment for them, usually some kind of a magic trick to kind of show his worth in a way and kind of get them back together, maybe even. And you know, this one goes not as planned, and it just destroys him.
Not only that, but it's also the first dinner where both of his parents' new partners are there for dinner, so he feels like he needs to do something even more spectacular.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's just so sad because he just wants his parents back together. He has like so low of self-esteem.
Yes.
He's me.
Yeah.
Trying to always be a people pleaser, always wanting the people around me to be happy and not mad or sad. Like, if anything happens, I feel like it's my fault.
Right.
And everything that happens after the magic incident is just heartbreaking to see happen to him. And it turns very, very sweet at the end. Like,
It does. It does.
It's one of the sweetest things the show has ever done.
Absolutely.
But yeah, both really hard-hitting episodes of TV there.
Definitely. So up next, we have a little bit of video game chatter. I'll start up with on my end first. Obviously, I've been playing my dating game still. With Love Island, we came to the end of Casa Amor, and we're deciding, or we're not deciding, but the boys are deciding whether they're picking one of us gals to come back with them to the other house or not, and I did get picked.
Is it really called House Love? Casa Amor?
Casa Amor, yes.
We're staying at House Love.
And then on Too Hot to Handle, so that game concluded. In my case, depending on like how you play it, my case, I did win the game. We got the money, me and my partner. Ooh. However, another couple got engaged, so I feel like we kind of lost out. I mean, come on, where's my engagement? And I got a side eye from this one. And then Love Island, or sorry, not Love Island, Love is Blind. I met the parental units, and I also met an ex who was in his apartment when I was over there. But apparently he hasn't talked to this ex in years, and we don't know why. She's around, and she like left a picture of them together for him, and there's more drama to come there. So we'll see what happens. But how about you? I know you've been playing Cyberpunk still.
Yes, I am trying to get at least 100% of like all the missions done. I mean, you have to do like multiple playthroughs to get everything done.
Yeah.
But I'm almost done with every single mission. I'm to the final ones now. The new DLC adds a new ending, and then, or I could do another mission which has the original 3 endings I could choose from. So I'm going to be going with the DLC ending to see what that's all about. But I still thoroughly enjoy the game. There's one glitch that was the bane of my existence for a long time last night, where I'm supposed to be fighting off this gang and opening up a van that has a bunch of counterfeit stuff in it. The van would not open.
Oh.
The guards would not spawn. They turned out to be a couple blocks away from where they were supposed to be.
Oh, jeez.
I had to find this out online just because of the bug that happened to it. And then I had to come back, and then everything started to work. But that took about like 3 hours for me to realize that. But I have almost near 200 hours in the Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
The PS5 version of it.
Yeah.
So I've been thoroughly enjoying the game.
Yeah.
And I love what they've done with 2.0 updates. I love what they've done with Phantom Liberty. The only expansion that's going to be a part of the game, sadly. But I am thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah.
So when I do finish this up either tonight or tomorrow, probably tonight because we have some stuff to catch up on, Friday is the big day for gaming. Yes. Super Mario Brothers Wonder comes out on the Switch.
I thought there's something else too.
Oh, there is, but you know, like the old school 3D but 2D Mario is a part of that, and it's got like a whole bunch of weird stuff that they're adding to it. But
Sure.
It looks like a really fun game, and you know, if that ever goes on sale, I think you might enjoy that. I mean, I know you like the old Mario games.
True.
But of course, for me, being the PlayStation fan that I am, being the Tony Todd fan that I am, and being a huge fan of the original game, Spider-Man 2 Electric Boogaloo will be coming out.
Yes.
And it's got some of my favorite Spider-Man villains, like Venom, like Kraven the Hunter, and so many others that I don't even know about yet.
Yeah.
Apparently on PS5, you can already pre-download it. So the minute that it turns Thursday at 11 p.m. Central, you can play it.
Nice.
You don't have to wait for it to download. You don't have to do any of that stuff. The only real perk to pre-order, and it's funny with the pre-ordering, it's like, it's not going to sell out online.
No.
Like, it can't sell out digitally.
No.
But it might be something I want to do just to get it all preloaded. That way at 11 o'clock, I can just like start it and get into it.
Yeah.
You know, like what we've been doing a lot lately is we'll do it a couple hours ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like right before it officially launches. That way we get the pre-order stuff and I hardly have to wait.
Yes.
Which is a good little trick to do if you don't want to feel stupid about everything. That way you can still see the reviews. That way you can still see if it's worth it for you or not. Wait until a couple hours before it goes live.
Yes.
But I am really, really looking forward to that. And of course, the following Friday will be Alan Wake 2, which is one that I'm super, super excited for, as this turns into more of a survival horror game. Of course, the original is a pure horror game, but this one is two different aspects of the Alan Wake universe. One's more of a crime, trying to figure out what happened to Alan Wake from the escapades of the first game, and the second you follow Alan Wake trying to escape his nightmares. I can't wait for that one, and I think it's going to be incredible, and I hope that they do include Poets of the Fall again.
I hope so.
Because Remedy does that in every single game, and I hope they continue the tradition, because I keep saying it, I think this is like 3 episodes in a row now. Poets of the Fall does not get enough love here in the United States.
That's true.
Everywhere else they do, but not the States. Is there any other games that you're thinking about or looking forward to?
Not right now, no. Nothing on my end.
I'm amazed you're not playing Skyrim lately.
I haven't been playing on my Switch too much lately, but...
So, kind of going into that, what do you think about all the Switch 2 rumors that are going on?
I mean, I'm excited for the possibility of it having more power so it can handle more games, but it better be backwards compatible and it better not be too expensive or I'm not doing it.
Yeah, there's so many rumors that are going around.
Yeah.
There's rumors that it could be announced this week officially.
Yeah.
By Friday. Like, there could be a huge Nintendo Direct where they go over what the Switcheroo, which is what I think should be called.
Yes.
Or the Super Nintendo Switch, which I think would be a great name.
Oh, that would be great.
But, it's like, I do love Nintendo, but, like, the handheld stuff, I never really got to grow up with it.
Yeah.
So I never really got to appreciate it. I love looking at a big screen. I love doing all that stuff. But this is your Switch, so you have your nice little comfortable setup on the other side of your setup to play it on the screen if you want to. You can take it out of handheld. You can put it in the handheld mode and do it like that. That's your system. It's got all the benefits of what you could want, with the exception of games.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll change with the new one.
Yes. Okay, and finally, we got some music talk. There's a few new things that we checked out this week. I know we checked out the new single from Angra, which I think we both kind of felt the same way, that, like, it was a little bit more in line with what we're used to seeing from Angra versus the last couple singles, but still not quite what we love from Angra.
Yeah, this is easily the most darkest Angra album to date.
Yeah.
It feels like it deals with a lot of pain, loss, and the state of the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they haven't tackled dark lyrical content before, but there was always a hint of fun in the past.
Yeah.
Where none of the songs feel fun to me anymore.
It's way more serious this round.
Yes. Where, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being serious, but when you're doing serious progressive metal and power metal, it's hit or miss. And for me, I want to enjoy it more than I do.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what the rest of the album holds, but so far it's for me. Obviously, we talked about earlier in the episode, the new Twin Temple is out, so we listened to that.
Well, let's go with your thoughts first.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, they didn't, change the book from the first one, really. It's still that satanic doo-wop that we love.
But they don't need to change.
They don't need to. Yeah, in a lot of cases, sometimes you don't need to change the book. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, this is easily going to be one of my top 10 albums of the month, and will most likely be in my top 100 of the year, which is already coming up next month. Sorry, I needed to get that out of my system before I write up 100 album reviews and then talk about 100 albums in video form as well. So basically, I'm doing 200 albums.
Yes, and we'll be talking about it on here as well.
So 300 albums potentially. I don't know how many I'm going to be talking about on the show here. I might talk about all of them. I might do 10 or 20. I don't know.
We'll see what happens.
But I'm already losing my sight, losing my mind. Somebody just tell me I'm fine right now. But I love the new Twin Temple. Great stuff. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and Twin Temple proves it.
It's true. We checked out the new single from Sonata Arctica.
And another one you need to go first on.
So, Sonata Arctica, once upon a time, was my favorite band. I love them. Like, their first 4 or 5 albums. Beautiful, perfection, absolutely love. Then Tony got a wiggle up his tuchus to be a little more creative.
Whimsical.
And they had a few albums where, like, they'd put out, like, a a really good single, and then the rest of the album was kind of hit or miss.
Got a crap load of money.
And then they just turned to a point where I just haven't been able to keep up with them at all because it's just not my cup of tea. This single in particular, it does sound more power metal than what I've heard from them in recent albums, but it's not like I miss classic Sonata Arctica where it was more storytelling based, whereas now it's like he's trying to save the world with his lyrics. And kind of like Angra, they're kind of trying to be more serious and stuff in certain respects, but
sometimes I just want dumb power metal. What's wrong with that?
well, it wasn't
I want
even
big, dumb, silly power metal.
It wasn't even dumb before Angra or Sonata Arctica. It was just really good, like either happy or storytelling or whatever the case may be, but not as like serious. And I just don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the power metal double bass. It's got the power metal chucking guitars. Tony Kakko doesn't sound like he's doing his range at all.
No.
It sounds like he's just kind of stuck in one little register now.
Yeah.
Maybe he can't do the highs and lows that he used to.
Maybe.
I don't know, but it feels like a filler song, and I hope this is an example of Sonata putting out their weakest material first and the best stuff's on the album.
Yeah. And actually, side note with this, I just saw earlier today, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but
No.
So Stradivarius and Sonata Arctica are touring together. I can't remember where, if it's on Europe or wherever
Probably
it is.
Europe.
Anyways, one of the guitar players in Stradivarius is out because they just had a baby, and Yanni is actually filling in because I mean obviously him and Timo are very close with their projects that they've done together, but it's just funny like he's gonna be touring with Sonata Arctica right now,
But not with.
Sonata Arctica. Yeah.
I did not know that.
He is temporarily touring with Stradivarius while their guitar player is out.
Jens Johansson. Hammerfall? Is that the name of the band? Hammerfall?
Right. But I mean, him and Sonata are still, well, the members that he was with in Sonata are still on good terms. I mean, obviously, he had Tony on his solo album, and I know him and Henrik have always been close and stuff. So I think that'll be a fun tour, though.
Wish it was coming here.
Yeah, if only. Next up, we checked out the new Ronnie Atkins album.
This is one of the most inspiring albums that I've heard all year.
Absolutely.
There's one song in particular. If you can dream it, you can do it. This is one song, I think you were in the kitchen or in the bathroom when this song was playing.
Yeah.
Almost brought me to tears.
Yeah.
Because, again, if you're not familiar with Ronnie Atkins, he is the lead singer of the band Pretty Maids. He also has he's a part of so many different projects, from Nordic Union to Avantasia and so many others. But he is on his second round of battling stage 4 cancer.
Yes.
And he's still going strong.
Yes.
And this is just the latest album that he's putting out, and he's got more coming down the pipeline, new shows coming out. But his lyrical content after getting this second round has been some of the most inspiring lyrics of like hope and never giving up and doing what you can to live your best life while you're still here.
Yeah.
And just listening to this album, it's soul crushing in the way that it inspires you.
Yeah.
And I just can't hand it to Ronnie Atkins more. This album is just spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when we listened to it together, like it definitely hit me. But I think when I sit down alone at some point and listen to it and with the lyrics in front of me, it's gonna be a good cry fest. I mean, like it's inspiring, but also just like knowing what he's going through and the fact that he is so inspirational and like he's an amazing man and his voice is nothing short of amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Did you have any more?
Nothing from both of us, but I know you had said you had checked out Judas Priest too.
Yes, I checked out the new Judas Priest song. It sounds like Judas Priest.
Yeah.
It sounds like a mix of like Turbo Lover and Painkiller, so like late 80s, early 90s sound. The lyrics are a little tug-collery because it's all about like, get off social media, you're ruining your life kind of stuff.
Okay.
Which, I can see it from both ends, but it also feels like old man yells at cloud. The music is fine. People are saying this is weak because KK Downing isn't on here. And it just sounds like a tribute band to Judas Priest. First of all, 2/3 of the band has been in the band for almost 35 years.
Yeah.
If that's not the band, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Judas Priest. It doesn't sound like they're trying to be a modern metal band. It doesn't sound like they're trying to rehash anything. It's just Judas Priest, whether you like it or not. I don't know how I feel about it. I feel kind of flat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel high or low about it. It just sounds like a new reason for Judas Priest to tour.
Oh.
And I don't think there's really anything wrong with that, but I don't know what everyone's getting up in arms about.
Yeah.
But one album I think a lot of people need to be checking out, because I talked about him in my horror albums earlier in the show, is the band The Lion's Daughter with their new album Bathhouse, which is another fantastic horror-filled concept album. All of the spooky keyboards are here, a little more diversity in the metal sound as well. I feel it's very well-rounded. I still think Skin Show is their best album, but also Skin Show has only been in my possession for a couple days, so that could easily change.
Yes.
But again, if you're looking for synth-layered horror metal, The Lion's Daughter is just that perfect example of that. Again, we already talked about Twin Temple as well with their new album, and, you know, there's going to be a lot of good stuff that's going to be coming out for the last couple weeks as well, too, and I'm excited to see where all that's going about.
Yeah.
But, of course, that'll lead into my top 10 of October, coming up in a couple weeks. There's just too many albums.
Yeah.
What is the official count on what I have right now for my best of 2023 list, which is how I put everything together. This, again, does not include October or November yet, but I have 180 albums in the list, and I'll be adding at least 20 more to this, so it'll be 200 to choose from. I'll be sending you this particular list, so you can maybe narrow some things down, and of course, your other flavorings of everything else that you check out. But yeah, absolutely insane year for music. I can't wait to be able to talk about it more. But I think this is a good place to be able to end the show. What should people look forward to next week?
Yeah, so next week we have our Treehouse of Horror top 10 episodes.
Well, segments.
Or segments, yes, sorry. And we will also be doing our top 10 horror movies of all time.
This is going to be quite the diverse list between the both of us.
It is.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's great seeing you take the reins on like the topics that we're doing and stuff like that. And you know, like after 14 weeks, I feel like we just keep getting stronger and stronger on the mic, going between each other, giving each other crap in the right spots, and just having fun. And this is really us. This is who we really are on the mic. We're not faking anything.
No.
This is just who we like to be. And I love doing the show with you, and I'm so glad that you want to keep doing it.
Aww.
But yeah, enough of the gushy stuff. Well, gushy murder stuff, horror stuff will be coming up next week.
Exactly.
But until then, make sure to check out the show, this particular show, anywhere you check out podcasts. And of course on YouTube as well too, if you want video version, which is just the thumbnail, because we don't do real video. No. But check us out on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and of course YouTube, all with Heavy Debriefings attached to it. And of course check out heavydebriefings.weebly.com for all 900 plus interviews I've done so far, links to all my written material, and so much more. And if you got any ideas of what you would like to see from the show, coming up with different topics, things that we can talk about, make sure to let us know in the comments or anything like that as well too. We're always up to suggestions, because we're only two people and we might be missing out on something that could be really cool.
Yeah.
So until next week, for the Metal Fairy, this is Josh Runquist for the Heavy Debriefings podcast saying, see ya.